Not compared to these guys. I mean, unless you're translucent.
Yeah, I'm black and white.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I've definitely experienced both sides of the spectrum when it comes to things like that. So I lived in a place like Louisiana, which was very southern, right? And if you know the history of Louisiana, like it's, I guess it was a very racial place. But my growing up there in high school, I experienced a lot more racism from the black people than from the white people, and that's
really
weird to say, yeah. But and then when I
like, what kind of racism would you experience from black people?
I would say like when you talk about like discrimination against a group, that's what I'm saying. I feel that I was discriminated towards because of lighter skin. Now, the white people in the school, I wouldn't say that there was really any conflict with them between me, and that's what I feel like. It is more what the media wants to do, and what I feel like a lot of even black people are struggling with is believing the media and whatnot.
That's surprising. As a not half a completely white person, obviously. I mean, I was raised in Canada. I'm very, very white. We're always told, and especially with Barack Obama, that biracial people are always treated like they're black, right? That's what you hear in the media, and that wasn't your experience.
Yeah, definitely not. I don't believe that that's an experience for most, and I believe that America, a lot of people have a victim mentality, and they don't really ever search truth for themselves, and they just get fed a lot of things and a lot of truths. So yeah, that's what I struggle with a lot, especially a place like Dallas. It's a melting pot, you know what I mean? So it's nice to live in a place like this, but then you also see a lot of people just being distracted by all that's going around them and never really searching truth for themselves, and that's what makes me sad. You know what I mean? I'm a believer. I'm a Christian. I believe in the Word of God. I believe in Jesus. So when I see people being deceived by these things that they're portraying to be big and then actually just distracting them from deeper truth, then I get pretty frustrated by that. So
man, it's refreshing to hear, because you're saying I would agree with pretty much everything you just said, right? And I think this is an issue too. Like, I obviously think racism exists to some degree. There are individual racists, like you've experienced it. White people are what you just said. White people would be afraid to say, because they'd be afraid to be accused of being racist, right? That is a fear right now, which I will tell you creates a divide. Like, when Black Lives Matter happened, right? We just talked with 2 or 3 guys. I said, man, I think all lives matter. And I said, now, white people were called supremacists if they said that, so they go, I'm just not going to voice an opinion. That creates more distance. Do you sense that a little bit, where maybe white people are kind of pulling back because they're afraid of being it's a witch hunt, that everything is racist? If they express the exact same opinions you just did, most white people, that's 100% in common. Yeah,
and that's what I would have to say, that there needs to, instead of starting a group that is labeled Black Lives Matter, which again, like so I see a lot on the media, right, of like when like somebody will post like, oh, this strong black woman, and then and that happens by the black community, where they continue to describe themselves and kind of belittle themselves by their skin color, that like, okay, that's what's important about me, I mean, what I'm saying. And I don't think that's what's important about anybody. And even when it goes into and this might be a little bit off topic, but when you go into the gay community or the trans community, it's funny to me how
completely on topic.
Whole identity is wrapped in their sexuality. You know what I'm saying? So, and I just see like that's a very sad life to live for anybody. And even as, like, let's say I walked around here light-skinned, and I started African American, you know what I mean? I walked around here and I made my whole life just about my skin color, and praising that and lifting that up. I just think that that's the biggest waste of time and a distraction that I think the media tries to push. And I think the best thing they could do is continue to keep tension between racial groups when there really shouldn't be any. Again, in my life, I haven't came across anybody, and when they talk about like systemic racism, that hasn't been my experience with life at all. So I think that people really need to look into their own life experiences and not take the life experiences of certain people and then claim that as their own just because it's from their same racial group. So
I think that was very well said. Let me ask you one kind of question in closing. Why do you think what you just said? By the way, it's a mixed group. They're white, but a mixed group of people here. We have Russian, we have Polish. Sometimes black people don't realize, like, not all white people are the same. But everyone would agree with what you just said. It was well spoken. Why do you think what you just said is not something that is ever echoed as representative of the black community in the media, meaning with CNN, places like that? What you've just said, you don't hear as a voice in the black community.
I think that the people who do try to speak up in that sense do get shut down and get portrayed as they're crazy or they're psycho or they're mentally ill for having strong opinions. And that's what frustrates me about the media, is that like and it's true that people, even on Instagram, you see stuff that is calling out like liberal groups of people. It says sensitive false content, you know what I mean? So when you see stuff getting censored like that, and it's like, then you see that already there's an agenda that that they don't want truth to be made known. So that's what I say. I think it goes a lot deeper than just the conversation of black and white or even what these people are doing. I think that there's a much deeper agenda, and I think it goes all the way down to that the devil has a plan for this world, but God also has one too, and that's for Jesus to be made known. So.
I would certainly agree with you, man. And here's the thing: would it surprise you that like we've spoken with a lot of people, a lot of black men today, and what you're saying is not uncommon. Like there are a lot of dudes who think the same way, but people don't talk.
Yeah.
Like we have a lot more in common than separates us. And I agree, man. It's a symptom of the heart.
Yeah.
It's not a symptom of the melanin level.
Yeah.
It's not.
I love that. I love that. Yeah. So I appreciate what you guys do. You know what I mean? I would say that conversations are very much needed. I love a lot of. I love the work of people who like to sit down and have conversation, and I think that we are starting to see a lot more people rise up and speak truth and kind of get out of
it just starts with talking, man.
Yeah.
That's what it is. It just starts with talking with people, not listening to what other people are. It's like a game of telephone. Remember, and so what happens with a lot of white people and black people is like black people think this, and then it goes, Van Jones goes, black people think that, and he goes, black people think this, and the white people are like, oh, okay, let me go tell other white people, black people think this, and then at the end we're like, oh yeah, black people are trans activist communists or whatever the hell it is, and people are like, what? That's not what I said.
Yeah.
I said Apple, like in phone. Oh, I'll just say, hey man, I appreciate it, man. I really do. Thank you. Be blessed, man.
You guys as well. Thank
For
you
sure.
so much.
Now, before we move on to the next conversation, and Josiah was not a plant, I absolutely swear, if you appreciate these kinds of discussions, hit the like button. Comment below if any of this has surprised you thus far, or if you'd like to see more of these. And do consider checking out the Live Daily Show Monday through Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern, right here on YouTube, or preferably Rumble. How would you sort of characterize race relations in the United States today between like white and black people?
Between white and blacks, again, depending on where you are society-wise, a lot of times, oftentimes, if your zip code determines your interaction.
Yeah.
So, for instance, if you're from my neck of the woods, it's all.
Where are you from?
I'm actually from here, from Dallas. So,
okay.
But the zip codes in Dallas dictate or determine how often you interact with someone. So, for my profession, I'll say it for this way: if I'm on a certain side of town, and I'm supposed to protect and serve, but yet the same, if you see me as this, you clutch your purse, or just big Dominican black guy with tattoos. Oh, he's afraid. Or on the other side of town, it's like, hey, bro, how you doing, man? Come on over. So it all depends on where you're located and your exposure, pretty much.
So you think that in certain areas of town, you think that the white people, like you said, purse, white women are afraid of you?
No, actually, not at all. Actually, no. It all. I think that I have to, as a person speaking for me, I have to be a bit more receiving. Hi, how are you? Pleasure. And then, hey, what's up? How you doing? That interaction, because I have to be more than.
And do you find that then the interaction is usually positive if you do that?
Yes, I do.
It's disarming?
It's somewhat disarming.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Why do you think some people might have that initial reaction if you don't interact that way?
Depending on whatever their experiences have been. For instance, if it's you see the villain on a TV show or on a movie, always. If it's the guy that's putting his mask down, carjacking. And if he looks
dude, no. I gotta disagree. If I have to watch another Simply Safe commercial where it's a white guy who kicks in the door at 2 a.m., come on. I have never seen a commercial ever where a black dude is a criminal.
Well, they're smarter than that. They wouldn't do that. It'd be the end of the...
Okay, so we agree on that. They're always like, it's always like some guy who looks like Gary who's like there to like, I'm here to rob your home. I'm like, that's not what happens.
Yeah, but it's, I think ideally, if you put yourselves in an open environment, or if you're open to it, if you go to a park, and it's not Highland Park, or if it's not University Park, But if it's just a park,
Yeah.
go interact with the kids. Oftentimes, I think that part of society is actually taught to us. And this is my own perspective. If you put a group of 5 and 6-year-olds around in the playground,
Yeah.
they could care less
Right.
what the color of your skin is,
Right.
or where your zip code is, or how much your 401k is, or what you're retired. They could care less.
Right.
They're just going to play. They're just going to show love. They're going to have fun. And I think that as adults, as we as society, if we can get to that place again to where it's, hey man, I see a human.
Yeah.
I see a person.
We have more in common than separates us, probably in a lot of ways.
Agreed.
But if you watch everything in the media, things are always categorized often by race, very often. Now, of course, sex and gender. And I've always found, again, like going to church here in Texas, like one I went to in Carrollton was very mixed. It was almost 50-50.
Absolutely.
Always had very good interactions. And
Absolutely.
there was a disconnect from going, hold on a second, on TV they're making it seem like we're worlds apart.
Right.
Those aren't my interactions on a daily basis.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And even with myself, he gave you the thumb up or something.
Oh, okay.
All right.
I don't know what he's doing.
All right, cool. But in a place such as that, you're supposed to be open, welcoming. And in hospitals and churches, everybody's supposed to be
Right.
open to it. You're welcome. Hey, come on in.
Yeah.
And I think that as society, we shouldn't get too far from that in which we couldn't find a place of, hey man, I just want to reach you.
Yeah.
I want to know you. What is it about you?
Well, one thing I'll say, because you talk about sort of your interactions, that maybe some people might clutch their purse, right, or have these sort of preconceived
I've had it
notions.
happen to me.
Yeah.
I'm like, man, if anything happened by law, I'd have to protect you.
And I think
I'm not the threat.
Well, and I think for sure there are some people who have those preconceived notions, right? And black people are probably sometimes, like you're saying, you have to go out of your way because you're concerned of them thinking maybe let's say you're violent.
Right.
On the flip side, you have white people often now, they're very afraid of interacting with black people because they're afraid of being accused of being racist. That's a fear that a lot of white people have now.
Okay.
That I think maybe sometimes black people don't. Well, we all have our kind of concerns because that white woman may have been mugged. You know what I mean? She may have had a life, like you said, a life experience and wants to avoid it. And if we don't talk, then it just gets worse. Right? We just separate more and more.
I've had in my experiences as well, and I also have a young lady that I was in a relationship. She's Caucasian. We have a beautiful triracial baby together, and her experiences and a lot of the things that I've exposed her to about my world before she would ever have known, because they don't teach that in school. They don't teach certain aspects of culture on that side of the world.
Yeah.
Kind of from being from Whitesboro or Pottsboro, they don't teach what I learned.
It has white in the name.
That's a town.
Yeah,
okay?
yeah.
It's
There's
a
also
town.
white settlement.
Yeah,
so I came from Canada. I'm like, how the hell do you name the town this? Like,
It's a
how do you get
town.
away with it? I know. Oh, I get it.
I have nothing to do. That was years before.
No.
Yeah,
I get it.
Just the exposure itself, and now it's more than it's more than, well, hey, I understand him. I'm receptive to him.
Right.
Okay. He's not bad. His family isn't bad. They're not bad. They're loving just like everyone else.
What do you think, kind of, especially here in Deep Elm, what would you say the results were afterwards of, since you're saying we don't want to just label people by race, but like, Black Lives Matter, and there's a lot of fallout from that. How would you classify that now? Would you say it was good for relations across the country?
I think the topic itself was specific for that. Not that anything, no one's lives matter. Everyone's lives matter.
Yeah.
In my opinion, even from my aspect, from my side looking in, I'll